Classic mechanical web shooter. Ever wondered why a kid who can climb walls still needs a fancy watch to swing around? Peter Parker made the classic mechanical web shooters because he lacked the gross body holes for organic webbing. First off, he was only 15 years old when he built these twin wrist devices. That's a lot more productive than most teens who just spend their time watching tongue shower or TikToks. He needed a way to move through the tall buildings of New York City and stop bad guys without using his fists. Peter custom machined steel parts and added a high-pressure turbine pump to make it work. The trigger is located right in the middle of his palm. He has to do a specific double tap with his middle and right fingers to fire them. This design choice ensures he does not accidentally spray his kitchen with glue when he makes a fist, which I think is pretty smart. The web fluid stays inside small brass cartridges that he hides on a secret belt. Once the liquid hits the air, it turns into a strong, sticky polymer. It is basically the world's most dangerous silly string that dissolves in exactly 1 hour. But maybe the best part is that the nozzles are totally adjustable for different situations. He could fire a thin line for swinging or a big glob to stop a car. It is a masterpiece of science from a kid who could not even drive yet. His shooters are the gold standard for every other hero in the multiverse. They are simple and effective and rarely break down when he needs them most, unless he runs out of fluid, which happens about every other Tuesday. Superior Spider-Man shooters. Redesigning a hero's gear is easy when you have 4 extra arms and a giant ego. Dr. Octopus took over Peter Parker's body and decided the original web shooters were a total mess. He thought the hidden design was a waste of time and moved everything to the outside. These superior Spider-Man shooters are big and armored and look like they belong in a heavy metal band. Otto Octavius wanted to be the most efficient crime fighter ever seen in the city. He changed the chemical formula so the webs last way longer than just 1 hour. You need a special solvent to get rid of these webs or you are stuck forever. Additionally, he added retractable claws that could cut through solid steel like he's Wolverine Light. He even put lasers in the gauntlets because everything's better with lasers on it. The web fluid has tiny sharp shards in it to make sure criminals regret their choices. It turns a simple capture net into a very painful trap for anyone who struggles. Otto also hooked the shooters up to the suit's sensors for perfect math-based aiming. He does not miss because he lets the computer do all the hard work for him. In the end, this version of the gadget is much more aggressive and scary than the original. It shows that Doc Ock really has no chill when it comes to stopping a bank robbery, though I think he probably spent more time polishing the armor than actually helping old ladies cross the street. Spider Armor MK2 shooters. Walking into a room full of guns is a bad idea when your spider sense is broken. Peter Parker created the Spider Armor Mark II because he lost his magical danger warning powers for a while. Without his ability to dodge bullets, he was basically a target in a bright red onesie. He built this armor to be totally bulletproof by using magnetic polarized materials. The web shooters are tucked away inside the forearm plates to keep them safe from damage. What I think is a very cool feature is that he used specialized magnetic webbing for this specific suit. He mixed the regular fluid with magnetic particles to create a brand new tactical tool. This allows the webs to mess with radio frequencies and pull guns away from shooters. It also sticks to moving metal cars much better than the standard white goo. The nozzles got an upgrade to handle the thicker and heavier metallic fluid without getting stuck. On top of that, the suit has padding that absorbs energy when Peter gets hit. He can stand in front of a tank and fire magnetic traps without even flinching. This gear was necessary because Peter felt like a normal guy for the first time. He had to use his brain to make up for the fact that he was vulnerable. Turns out that being a genius is a pretty good backup plan for superpowers. Spider Armor Mark III shooters. Facing the Sinister Six at once requires more than just a snappy attitude and luck. The Spider Armor Mark III was built at Horizon Labs to handle 6 different villains at the same time. Peter knew that his regular webs would not be enough to stop his biggest enemies. He made these shooters look like big, chunky gauntlets that could survive a nuclear blast. Each arm has multiple barrels that can switch between different types of ammo instantly. For example, the right shooter has special chemical for fighting the Sandman. It finds the one grain of sand that controls the whole body and shuts it down. The left shooter has an electrical unit designed specifically to stop the villain Electro. It fires a stream of fluid that conducts electricity and shorts out his power safely. Furthermore, the gauntlets can shoot carbon fiber nets that are strong enough to hold the Rhino. But the coolest part is that the whole thing is made of a vibranium alloy so it doesn't break during a fight. This is the ultimate toolbox for a hero who is tired of getting beat up. Even Doc Ock's genius brain would be impressed by how many secrets are in these arms. It's basically a Swiss Army knife of superhero gear for a very long day. If you can't beat them with speed, you might as well beat them with gadgets. Just try not to trip over your own heavy feet while wearing this giant suit. Spider Armor Mark IV shooters. Being the boss of a global company means you get all the coolest high-tech toys. The Spider Armor Mark IV represents the absolute peak of Peter Parker's skills as a master engineer. He was the CEO of Parker Industries and had more money than he knew how to spend. This suit is made of liquid metal and has shooters hidden under the shiny surface. They are controlled by tiny nanobots and respond to Peter's voice commands in real time. He can tell the suit to change the web formula while he's flying through the air. This allows him to shoot acid webbing that melts through heavy vault doors in seconds. He can also use concrete webbing to hold up buildings that are falling down on people. There is even sonic dampening webbing to stop villains that use loud sound as a weapon. What's even crazier is that the shooters can fire blasts of electricity through the lines. The inside of the device is coated with a special material so it never jams up. High-pressure turbines let him fire webs across huge distances that seem totally impossible for a human. It's like having an Iron Man suit, but with way more sticky stuff involved. Peter finally had the budget to make his wildest dreams come true with this technology. He went from a broke college student to a billionaire with a glowing spider chest. Too bad he ended up losing the company and going back to being poor again. Stealth suit shooters. Sneaking around a dark lab is much easier when your gadgets don't make any noise. Peter Parker made the stealth suit at Horizon Labs to deal with some very specific problems. He needed to get past the Hobgoblin's loud screams and fancy visual sensors without being seen. The web shooters for this suit got a massive upgrade to be as quiet as a ghost. He took out the loud gas tanks and replaced them with magnetic propulsion coils. This means the iconic thwip sound is completely gone when he fires his webbing. On top of that, the web fluid itself is totally clear instead of the usual white. He fires invisible strands that bend the light around them so nobody can see the traps. It's like being caught by a ghost who really wants to tie you up in knots. He also put a special frequency generator inside the nozzles to hide his location. This prevents bad guys from using technology to track where the webs are coming from. If that's not cool enough, the suit can change colors and hide from lasers and cameras while he moves around. It's the perfect gear for a ninja who also happens to have spider powers. Just don't forget where you parked your invisible car after the mission is over today. Impact webbing shooter. Some clones like to wear blue hoodies, while some like to invent brand new weapons. Impact webbing was created by Ben Reilly while he was acting as the hero Scarlet Spider. Ben, having to have his own style, was different from the original Peter Parker. He needed a way to stop big enemies from a distance without hitting them too hard. The impact webbing shooters look like big silver bracelets worn over his gloves on his wrists. Instead of a long stream, these shooters turn the fluid into solid little balls. When these pellets hit something, they explode into a giant mess of sticky webbing. It instantly wraps the bad guy in a cocoon before they can even say a word. Not to mention, the gauntlets have a computer inside to check out how much pressure is on the trigger. That ensures the pellet is the right size for whatever target he is trying to hit. It has a lot of stopping power and can knock down a grown man off his feet easily. It's basically like firing a beanbag chair that is also covered in super strong glue. That's why I think Ben Reilly kind of proved he was just as smart as Peter by coming up with this idea. Plus, the silver gauntlets look really cool with the sleeveless hoodie for some reason. If you like things that go boom and stick, this is the gadget for you. Sedative stingers. Sometimes you just want to put a villain to sleep without having to read them a story. Ben Reilly also came up with sedative stingers during his time as Scarlet Spider. He knew that some villains were too strong or too crazy for just regular webbing traps. These stingers are actually tiny metal darts that look like little silver needles in the air. They are fired using a quick burst of compressed gas that make them go very fast. Each dart is covered with a very strong chemical that makes people fall asleep instantly. It is designed to work even on people who have super strength or fast healing powers. When a stinger hits someone, it puts the medicine right into their blood through the skin. The person gets dizzy and their muscles relax until they are totally passed out on the floor. Ben uses special sights on his gauntlets to make sure he hits the right spot. This allows him to take down a monster from across the street without getting a scratch. It is a very smart way to handle a fight that could otherwise be very dangerous. He doesn't have to risk his life in a wrestling match if he could just use a dart. Just make sure you don't accidentally sit on one of those darts when you're resting. Future Foundation shooters. Joining a team of super geniuses usually comes with some pretty amazing fashion upgrades. The Future Foundation shooters are built right into a suit made by the famous Reed Richards. Peter Parker joined the group after the Human Torch was gone for a little while. The suit is made of unstable molecules, which is just a fancy way of saying space magic. Because of this, the web shooters are not even separate devices you could take off. They're part of the suit's fabric and act like living parts of Peter's own body. A very cool thing is that the shooters create webbing out of actual air. The suit sucks in tiny bits of matter and turns them into perfect web fluid instantly. This means Peter never has to worry about running out of ammo during a long fight. He doesn't have to carry extra cartridges or hide a belt under his fancy white suit. Furthermore, he can use his mind to change how the webbing looks and feels. He can make it white or black or even change the shape of the strands mentally. This helps him stay hidden when the suit changes its own colors for stealth missions. It's the most advanced version of the technology because it never runs out of juice. He could go to another planet and still swing around like he's in New York. It is nice to have friends who are literal geniuses with unlimited science budgets every day. If only his bank account was as infinite as the supply of futuristic web fluid. Iron Spider integrated shooters. Tony Stark can't help but put his own spin on every piece of technology he touches. The Iron Spider armor was a gift to Peter Parker right before the big Civil War event. Stark wanted Peter on his side and gave him a suit that's basically a tank. The shooters are built into the liquid metal alloy, so they are totally protected from damage. What makes these special is the advanced target tracking system inside the wrist units. They have stabilization rings that help the webs fly straight, even in a windy storm. Stark also made a new polymer formula that grows bigger as soon as it leaves the nozzle. This creates giant nets that are mathematically perfect for catching falling cars or bad guys. Even cooler, the shooters can turn webbing into hard shields or even solid balls of plastic. They are also linked to the mechanical spider legs coming out of Peter's back for more fun. He can fire webs from his hands and his extra legs at the same time for total coverage. It turns him into a one-man army that could trap a whole group of villains at once. The suit makes him much more powerful and much harder to hit during a big fight. It is a bit flashy, but that is exactly how Tony Stark likes to do things. Nothing says friendship like a bulletproof suit and a tracking device you didn't ask for. Spider-Gwen's moisture traps. Science is much harder when you don't actually have a lab, but luckily Gwendolyn Stacy has friends. On Earth 65, Gwen Stacy's web shooters are actually moisture traps instead of chemical tanks. She did not invent them herself because she was more focused on her band that time. Instead, the brilliant Janet Van Dyne made them for using her some very cool technology. The coolest part is that these shooters don't use any cartridges at all to make the webs. They have tiny compressors that pull water straight out of the air like a dehumidifier. The water vapors turn into sticky webbing inside the device through a quick chemical reaction. This means she has infinite ammo as long as the air is not too dry for her. On a rainy day in New York, she's basically the most powerful hero in the world. However, if she goes into a desert, she might have a hard time swinging around the dunes. The shooters are very small and light so they don't get in the way of her dancing. Gwen is very agile and needs to be moving fast without heavy metal gear on her wrists. She can also generate all the webbing she needs just by breathing the air around her while swinging. It is a very green and eco way to fight crime if you think about it. No plastic cartridges are left behind to clutter up the city streets after her big battles. It's the perfect gadget for a hero who is always on the move and traveling. Just hope she never has to fight a villain in a dry sauna. Lady Spider's steam shooters. Imagine if Spider-Man lived in a world where everything was made of brass and steam. May Riley of Earth 803 is a genius who built her own gear in a Victorian-era world. She doesn't have any actual spider powers, so she relies entirely on her mechanical skills. Her web shooters use pressurized steam to fire a sticky compound at her enemies in the city. These gauntlets are huge and heavy and are made of shiny copper and brass materials. They are connected to a big steam boiler that she wears on her back like a backpack. The boiler keeps the pressure high so she can launch her webs across the old streets. Every time she fires a shot, the device makes a loud hissing noise and releases white clouds, which is why I think it is definitely not a stealthy way to catch a thief in the middle of the night. The gears internally are very sophisticated, and she has to oil them all the time to keep them moving. If she forgets to maintain them, the whole thing might jam or even explode on her. It is much heavier than the modern versions, but it gets the job done for the lady. She is a true inventor who used what she had to become a hero for her city. It proves that you don't need a radioactive bug to make a difference in the world. You just need a lot of steam, some really good pipes, and a giant backpack. Assassin Spider-Man's weaponized shooters. The Peter Parker of Earth 8351 is not the friendly neighbor you are used to seeing. This version of the character became an assassin and started working with the mutant Wolverine. He stopped holding back and decided that some villains were better off gone for good. His web shooters are weaponized to reflect this much darker, more violent path in life. They are heavy gauntlets that have actual guns built right into the metal frames of them. He uses the same palm trigger to either fire a web or a high caliber bullet at his target. This allows him to trap an enemy in a web, then finish them off instantly. It's a very efficient and scary way to handle a fight in the middle of a war. To hold the bullets and the web fluid, the bracers are much longer and reach his elbows. They are reinforced with black steel so they can handle the kick of a firing gun. I think he has to be one of the most interesting versions because the Spider-Man is a soldier who treats every encounter like a mission that must be won. He doesn't make jokes, and he certainly doesn't give people second chances anymore. If you see this version of the webhead, you should probably just turn around and run. He is not here to web you to a lamppost and wait for the police. He's here to make sure you never bother anyone ever again for the rest of time. Spider-Man Noir's shooter. Not every Spider-Man needs a lab or a billionaire friend to get his webbing working. The Peter Parker of Earth 90214 lives in a dark, gritty world during the Great Depression. His powers came from a mystical spider god instead of a scientific accident in a laboratory. Because of this, his web shooters are actually biological parts of his own wrists and skin. He has tiny holes in his arms that spray out a thick, messy black liquid. The webbing is very sticky and it's used to make big nets to catch criminals. However, he cannot use it to swing between buildings like the modern versions of the hero. He mostly uses it to tie up people or blind them during a big messy brawl. One weakness is that the fluid is tied to his health, so if he's tired or hungry, the webs get weak. This makes things very difficult since he lives in a very poor, very hungry time period. In the end, he is more of a detective who uses his powers to scare the mob and get answers. He doesn't have fancy gadgets or high-tech sensors to help him find the bad guys. He just has his own body and a lot of grit to keep the city safe from harm. It is a tough life for a man who is literally leaking black goo from his arms. At least he never has to worry about his web shooters getting stolen. Cybernetic Spider-Man's heavy shooters. Surviving a terrible accident often requires some serious upgrades to your actual physical body. The cybernetic Spider-Man of Earth 2818 is more machine than man because of his tragic past. He suffered huge injuries and had to replace parts of himself with bulky robot parts. His web shooters are not just gloves, but are actually part of his bionic arm and nerves. He doesn't have to push a button because he can fire them just by thinking about it. The fluid he uses is also much stronger and contains metallic polymers for extra toughness. It hardens into cables that are as strong as steel and can hold the biggest monsters. His nozzles can even expand to act like a web shotgun for hitting multiple targets at once. He can blast through concrete walls just by firing a massive kinetic web at them. This version of the character is built for destruction and high-speed urban warfare in the future. He is much heavier and more powerful than a normal human could ever hope to be. The technology is wired directly to his brain, so he never misses a single shot. It's a very intense way to live, but it keeps him alive in a very mean world. He doesn't have to worry about dropping a cartridge because he is the cartridge himself. Every move he makes is calculated by a computer to ensure he wins the fight quickly. I have to be honest though, it's a very scary sight to see a robot Spider-Man crashing through your front door at night. Spinneret's power-draining shooters. Family's the most important thing, even when you're busy saving the world every day. And here's why. On Earth 18119, Mary Jane Watson uses special web shooters to help her husband Peter in a fight. Peter's built a suit for her that uses technology from a villain who stole powers from others. These shooters are very smart because they actually borrow some of Peter's powers from Mary Jane. This lets her crawl on walls and have the same agility as the original Spider-Man himself. The gauntlets have plenty of high-density web fluid for swinging around the city with her kids. However, there is a catch because the suit drains Peter's energy when she uses it too much. She has to be very careful not to make her husband pass out while they are fighting. It is a true team effort when they have to balance their strength to win the day. Later on, Peter added a battery to the suit so it wouldn't drain him quite as fast. This gave Mary Jane the freedom to use her webs whenever she wanted without any worry. She can fire huge nets and swing through the air just like a pro during a mission. It's a very sweet way for a couple to spend time together while stopping a bank robbery. Most couples just go to the movies, but the Parkers prefer to web up some crooks. It really brings a whole new meaning to the idea of being stuck together forever in love. Miles Morales' shield shooters. Moving to a world is hard, but having the right gear makes it a lot easier. Miles Morales of Earth 1610 got his official web shooters from the spies at S.H.I.E.L.D. after a talk. Nick Fury saw that Miles had a lot of potential and wanted him to be safe and effective. The engineers made these shooters to be very light and very strong for a young kid. They are matte black and look much more modern than the old versions Peter used to wear. A very important feature is that they're insulated against electricity and high heat. This is because Miles can fire big blasts of bioelectricity from his hands whenever he wants. If the shooters were made of regular metal, they would explode as soon as he used his powers. What I like about this is that S.H.I.E.L.D. used ceramic parts to make sure the electricity just goes right around the device. This allows Miles to punch a guy with a venom strike while also webbing him up at once. It is a perfect combination of technology and natural powers for a new kind of hero. Miles is very fast and needs gear that won't break when he does his cool flips in the air. The triggers are hidden under his gloves so nobody knows he's wearing them until he fires. He can swing around the city and look cool while doing it thanks to some very smart spies. It's very nice to have the government on your side when you're trying to be a hero. Just try not to lose them because they could probably cost more than Andrew Tate's Bugatti. Spider-Punk's spiked shooters. When you want to fight the power, you need gear that is as loud as a rock song. Hobart Brown from Earth 138 is a punk rock Spider-Man who built his own stuff from trash. He lives in a world run by a mean president and wants to start a big revolution. He found old pipes and broken guitar parts in a dump and turned them into web shooters. These things are covered in big metal spikes that make them look very dangerous and cool. He can use the spikes to hit people if they get too close to him during a fight. What I think is even cooler is that he hooked the shooters up to his electric guitar so they work with sound. When he plays a loud chord, the vibration makes the webbing blast out in a giant messy wave. This creates a sonic shockwave that knocks over riot police and glues them to the street. It's a very chaotic way to fight, but it works perfectly for a guy like Spider-Punk. He doesn't care about being neat or tidy when he's trying to save the world from a jerk. His gear is held together by tape and hope, but it is stronger than most corporate inventions. He is a true DIY hero who shows that you don't need a lab to be a genius. He just needs a good beat and some sticky fluid to make a really big statement. If you like your superheroes with a side of heavy metal, this is your guy. Just make sure you wear earplugs if you're going to hang out with him today, because he is the loudest hero in the multiverse and he's not sorry about it at all. That's it for this one. If you liked the video, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and ring the bell so you never miss a drop. Craving more stories from comics, movies, and beyond? Check out this video right here. Cheers and see you in the next one.